The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Keeping them honest every night. AC 360. CNN, weeknights 10 Eastern.
Keeping them honest tonight on the myth that will not die, the bogus belief that President Obama was born elsewhere. In fact, far from cooling, there's new polling that shows birther fever has now infected an awful lot of potential voters. And Donald Trump, who says he really doesn't want to talk about it anymore, well, he's talking about it some more.
I think there's a real question as to whether or not, and frankly, 75% of the people in the Republican Party are really doubting whether or not they have very big doubts. So, you know, there are a lot of people. I don't know why he doesn't just show his birth certificate.
Well, you know what?
I'd much rather run man to man.
The good
I don't know why he doesn't just show his birth certificate.
Donald Trump on American Morning. He also called into Fox. In fact, you might have seen it this morning at the breakfast table with a copy of USA Today in front of you and a Donald Trump op-ed inside. In it, he writes, "Allow me to repeat here what I have said on numerous occasions. I have spoken my piece on this issue." He says we in the press are to blame because we keep asking him about it. Now, leave aside for a moment that it's our job to challenge public figures on the facts. Just think about how easy it is for someone who really wants to change the subject and move on. To change the subject and move on. Then ask yourself, does Donald Trump really sound like that person?
Nobody from those early years.
That's not true. We have pictures of.
I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on that birth certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh my.
3 weeks ago when I started, I thought he was probably born in this country. And now I really have a much bigger doubt. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? Why has he spent over $2 million in legal fees to keep this quiet?
Barack Obama should give his birth certificate, not a certificate of live birth, which is nothing, which is absolutely nothing.
Every day that goes by, I think less and less that he was born in the United States.
Donald Trump, who just doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Well, just a reminder of the facts here. Classmates from those supposedly mysterious early years say they do, in fact, remember him. And here's the certification of live birth. The Obama campaign showed it back in 2008. Birthers, Donald Trump included, have said it's not the same as a long-form birth certificate. But as far as Hawaii, the State Department, and a lot of other states are concerned, it is. Here's the official stamp, and there on the left is the raised seal. Hawaii's current Democratic governor vouches for it. And back when she was in office, Hawaii's Republican governor, Laura Lingle, vouched for it too. In addition, both Honolulu papers ran birth announcements at the time, the information provided by state health authorities. Yet that's apparently not enough for Mr. Trump, who says he's got private investigators on the case, but is being coy about what, if anything, they're actually finding. And it's not enough for a lot of potential voters. In a new CBS News New York Times poll, only 33% of Republicans, just 1 in 3, say they believe President Obama was born here. 45% say flat out no. Another 22% aren't exactly sure. Which is not to say every leading Republican or conservative agrees. Many are either backing away from birtherism or never bought into it in the first place, such as Michelle Bachmann, John McCain, Karl Rove, House Minority Leader Eric Cantor, Mitt Romney, Tim Pawlenty, even the fire-breathing, sometimes bomb-throwing conservative provocateur Ann Coulter.
Obama has produced his birth certificate. There were announcements that ran in 2 contemporaneous Hawaiian newspapers at the time. The head of the Hawaiian Medical Records has announced, I have seen the long form you all want. I don't know why the long form is considered more credible than the short form. They're both from the same office. The State Department accepts the short form, or as we call it, the birth certificate.
Yet some politicians continue to flirt with the birther theme, especially in the state legislatures. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer vetoed that state's first-in-the-nation birther bill, but more than a dozen others are in the works across the country, mandating presidential candidates produce long-form birth certificates, including in Louisiana, where Republican Governor Bobby Jindal says if it passes, he will sign it. Some politicians continue to flirt with the birther theme, especially in the state legislatures. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer vetoed that state's first-in-the-nation birther bill, but more than a dozen others are in the works across the country, mandating presidential candidates produce long-form birth certificates, including in Louisiana, where Republican Governor Bobby Jindal says if it passes, he will sign it. I spoke with one of the sponsors, Republican State Senator A.G. Crow, earlier tonight. Senator, thanks for coming on the program to talk about this. Why would you say that we need this bill, and why now?
Well, I think we need this bill here in Louisiana because my constituents, first of all, are asking for it. I think also around the state and around the United States, people are wondering, will this issue ever go away? And it's very, very time consuming. I know for me, and unfortunately, we're going to have to address this issue in our state legislative, during our state legislative process this next session, simply because the issue won't go away. And perhaps if we pass some legislation here in Louisiana and perhaps in other states, this issue will come to a forefront. It'll be addressed, and then it'll be behind us so that we can get on about the business of the country.
I want to ask you where you stand on this. Do you believe that President Obama is a natural-born citizen of the United States?
I have no comment on that. That's not what this is about as far as I'm concerned. What this is about basically is protecting the Constitution of the United States of America.
Well, certainly, though, the issue has focused quite a bit on President Obama.
Yes, it has. I mean, obviously, that's the reason the issue is out there. And again, it's the reason why we have to take time in our legislators, during our legislative processes throughout the country to address this, at least for those states who choose to do so.
Well, getting back to the president, I mean, I should point out that a copy of his birth certificate has been released. I have a copy of one right here with me. We also have one for our viewers to see. I mean, it has a seal on it. It's a certification of live birth. There's a certificate number on it. Why isn't that good enough for you?
Well, it's not good. It's not that it's good enough for me. I think it's the American public. I mean, I'm not going all around the country saying that this is an issue. This happens to be people. There happens to be people calling me and telling me, constituents asking me as well as Representative Seabaugh up in Shreveport, to look at legislation to clarify this issue.
But you are the one who's putting this legislation forward.
Well, I'm a co-author of the bill, along with Representative Seabaugh from up in Shreveport. So yes, I'm responding to my constituents.
Well, I just want to point out the Hawaiian state health official who personally reviewed Barack Obama's original birth certificate has affirmed again that the document is real, denounced any conspiracy theorists. Hawaii's governor has said this is not an issue. So do you think that this president could prove that he's a natural-born citizen using the evidence that you're putting forward in this legislation?
Again, my emphasis and our emphasis here in the next legislative session here in Louisiana is simply to do one thing, and that's to clarify what our Constitution says. The name Obama is not listed anywhere in the legislation. That's not our concern. Our concern is just making it easy for people throughout this country, and our state certainly, to understand exactly what the qualifications are, because if there was no confusion, this wouldn't be an issue, and I wouldn't be here tonight.
But if you've had the Republican governor of another state saying that there's no basis for these questions, we're talking about Arizona, isn't it your job to tell your constituents their concerns are unfounded? I mean, isn't that what true leadership is all about?
Well, I think what true leadership is all about is finding out what the truth is.
What do you say to your constituents when they bring this up to you?
Well, on any issue, whether it's this issue or others, we have a process that we go through that, involves researching. It involves, questioning and looking at current law and so on, and basically go forward from there depending on what we find, in our research.
So do you think that your bill will become law, and do you think that President Obama will qualify for your state's presidential ballot next year?
Well, you keep bringing, Obama and the bill together, and our emphasis again, even though it derives from the issue that's out there around the country and around the state, because, there was a question about his eligibility, but our bill, again, is focused on simply making it much easier for people in this state, in Louisiana, to understand what the Constitution says relative to this issue.
Yes, I keep bringing up the president because that's what your constituents are talking about with you and what you are responding to. So that's why I'm asking, do you think that he would qualify on the presidential ballot next year in your state?
Well, if he meets the qualifications of what we pass in the state legislature, certainly he would qualify. I don't know.
And do you believe he has those documents?
I can't answer that. You need to ask him.
All right, Senator, we will leave it there. A.G. Crow, thank you.
Thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.